The dust was thick in the air, swirling through the narrow alley behind the rusty nail. I crouched low beneath the flickering neon signs, their light melting into the shadows like spilled paint. Just across the street, the holo guard drones buzzed, their searching eyes sweeping cleansing beams over the crowd. I could almost feel their cold gaze piercing through the grime on my cheeks, making the metallic taste of fear rise like bile in my throat. The stakes were high, and I couldn't afford to screw this up. Not now. "Pen," hissed a voice behind me barely above a whisper. Maris was ever the ghost, slipping into my periphery as if she had always belonged there. Her dark eyes glinted with urgency, but I could still catch the shadow of doubt crossing her face. "We need to move. If they grab us, it'll be the end of all this." I glanced down the alley, straining to hear the hum of the drones above the pounding of my pulse. They couldn't know about the delivery yet. It was too risky, too impulsive, but we were desperate, and desperation bred recklessness. I weighed my options against the sharp edges of survival. "And what if the delivery leads us right back to the Syndicate?" I shot back, my voice carrying a weight of fear I hoped she would dismiss. Maris narrowed her eyes at me, a familiar flash of irritation igniting the tension. She'd always had a way of confidently pushing back against my doubts like a fire seeking air to breathe. "We're not going to let them win. We know what they did to your brother." I flinched at the mention of Terk, my insides twisting in a tempest of guilt and sorrow. He had been the fearless one, always pushing the boundaries of safety. "Do we even know what we're getting into?" I pressed, forcing my gaze away from the memories that haunted me. "This city's crawling with traitors. It's not just the Syndicate we need to worry about." Maris stiffened at my challenge, and I wished I hadn't said it. Not now, not with everything hanging in the balance. I darted my eyes between her and the luminous haze beyond the alley, the city of Neon Haven alive with corruption and dreams, all cloaked in layers of secrecy. I gritted my teeth, finally pushing the lingering visions of Terk aside. Let's just get it done, then. With that decisive move, I found my adrenaline firing up, fueling my determination. My personal battle was immaterial now. I would do this for Terk, and for the rest of us who were caught in the endless cycle of suffering at the hands of the Syndicate. The weight in my lungs shifted, hardening my resolve. If nothing else, I had to find a way to take back whatever fragments of power they had stolen from us. Without another word, Maris and I slipped from our hidden nook and into the break of the street. The soft hum of the drones echoed above us, a constant reminder of how closely we were monitored. I could feel the vibrations beneath my skin as we began our careful descent into the heart of chaos, the movement getting bolder with every step. It was full of outlaws and renegades fleeing families, disillusioned citizens, and even government defectors straining against the chains of the old regime. As we moved deeper into the market district, the sights and sounds assaulted my senses. Merchants shouted from every corner, offering wares stolen from the Syndicate's clutches by others who had learned how to walk the line between survival and danger. I caught glimpses of strange machinery, glowing crystals, and organic technology intertwined in a way that made my head spin. The auditory symphony of small explosions, sizzling electronics, and the clang of metal melded with eclectic music, artfully weaving the fabric of a world on the brink of unraveling. "Where the hell do we go from here?" I muttered, breathless as I scanned the chaotic streets. Maris pushed me toward a concealed entrance beneath a warped metal awning festooned with wires. "In here." The deliveries at the market hub. A twinge of anxiety settled low in my stomach. Every instinct screamed that we were playing a dangerous game, but backing out now was not an option. I followed her through the entrance, stepping into a hole of shadows that echoed with the distant sounds of negotiation and conflict, loud, passionate debates speckled with underlying threats. As we crossed the threshold, I felt a chill wash over me. The ambience shifted here, colder and heavier. To the left, traders huddled together in their dealings while a smoky aura wrapped itself around them. Above me, dim lights flickered ominously, their glow resembling faded constellations trapped within the walls. It felt like eternity somehow, this place of the forgotten and the hopeful. "A pen, look," Maris said, pointing to a holographic display that burst to life above a vendor's stall. It showcased a bounty hour faces plastered across the ad like dreadful trophies, plastered beside the menace of the syndicate's unforgiving decree. They're pulling in a serious reward for us, and if we don't get our hands on that delivery soon. I swallowed hard. The tide was shifting. I could feel it rising against us. My heart skittered in my chest, punctuating the severity of our situation. The walls must have been listening. They exchanged our fates for the breaths we took in this fortress. It kept its secrets close while conspiring against us. Thumping footsteps on the metal floor sliced through the air, and I turned sharply to see a figure emerging from the heart of the market. Cloaked in shadows, their stance exuded an undeniable air of authority, like a specter fueled by products of the underworld. My chest tightened, but I faced forward, ready to fight. I was no longer that scared girl trapped in anguish. I was ready to rise against the impossible. In that moment, a call to arms ignited in me. I am not just doing this for my brother. We are all in this together, each holding threads of pain, fear, and defiance. The rise of the unlikely heroes. My part in the tale was just beginning. The air felt heavy as the mysterious figure advanced, a tidal pull urging me to recoil. Maris kept her stance steady at my side, her sharp eyes fixed on the shadows cloaking the figure's face. A flickering holographic emblem sparked to life above their head, a skull entwined with vines wrapped in smoke, the symbol of the rebellion, an uprising that had purportedly promised change but often indulged in bloodshed and chaos instead. I clenched my fists, feeling the rush of adrenaline dance through my veins. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. The figure paused, tilting their head questioningly as though they were deciphering our worth. "I'm surprised you made it this far." A muffled voice emerged from beneath the hood, low and resonating, sending chills through the crowd gathering in the shadows. "You're bolder than I was told, Pen, but boldness can lead you to ruin." Amaris stepped forward, her demeanor shifting from anxious to combative. "We're not here to waste time on threats. We know about the delivery. Are you going to help us or stand there like a statue? Careful, little bird." "Statues can shatter," the figure replied, a sly smile escaping as they stepped into the glow of a near-by neon sign. The features of their face were obscured by intricate masks, golden and silver vines dancing across the surface. "I am Kale, one of the architects of this mess we call a rebellion." "Architect?" I gasped, my mind racing back to the whispered tales associated with the name. "The architect of chaos. Chaos is a relative term," Kale said, their voice even. "This city is collapsing under the weight of its own design, and you're not the only ones caught in its web. You're looking for a way to fight back, but even your motives could lead to greater ruin. You need someone who knows the structure, the weaknesses." I felt Maris tug on my sleeve, a warning to keep caution tethered around my spirit. "What's your angle, Kale?" she pressed. "Are you trying to lure us deeper into some trap?" "You know," Kale replied, tone placid, "I'm offering you an opportunity to navigate the shadows that give shape to our cause, but I require something in return." "What's your game?" I uttered, suspicion boiling beneath my skin. "There is an artifact buried within the Syndicate's vault, a power source from the old world. It could tip the balance in our favor. Retrieve it, and I will assist you with your delivery." Kale's gaze shifted to the gathering crowd, now transfixed by our standoff. "You have 24 hours. Or I will consider you nothing more than fodder for the Syndicate." "Just 24? I asked, incredulous. "Time is a luxury we cannot afford," Kale replied, stepping away with an almost ethereal grace. "If you dare to defy the odds, meet me at Sector V after sundown." Their figure dissolved into shadow, leaving me standing with a whirlwind of thoughts, confusion raging like acidic venom in my veins. "What do we do?" Amaris asked, her brow furrowed, glancing at the crowd murmuring behind us like angry wasps. "We can't trust them." "What if the artifact doesn't exist? Is it worth the risk?" I spun towards the market, where familiar faces melted into unfamiliar enigma. What choice do we have? If we don't take on the syndicate, we're just biding our time until they find us. Fine, Maris relented, her expression shifting from traitorous fear to resolute courage. Let's draw a plan. The vault is heavily guarded. We darted towards the edges of the market, the buzz of schemers reverberating through neon-hued stalls. My body thrummed with purpose as I searched the glowing screens at the vendors' displays, my mind manually organizing information into a strategic map. If we track the syndicate patrols, we can find a weakness in their security. Maris nodded. Her talents lay in trades and persuasion. I know someone. A determined glimmer sparked across her eyes. A contact from the old days. A hacker who can get us schematics of the vault's layout. Great. Anxiety soared through my body, lifting my resolve like rocket fuel. Where do we find them? Down at the City Machine, an underground bar clinging to the edge of oblivion, she replied, her voice tinged with nostalgia. But it won't be easy. They don't like new faces, especially not ones with syndicate bounties on their heads. I thought you had a knack for charm. I teased, hoping to lighten the mood, but Maris appeared unfazed, calculation replacing any potential mirth. After navigating through chaotic throngs of barterers, we emerged into cooler air, one that held a tang of rust and rebellion. The City Machine was unlike anything in Neon Haven, its dark heart throbbing beneath layers of sizzling electronics and tinged mist. Graffiti screamed defiance across its walls, each mark imbued with someone's battle cry against the machinations that bound us. As we entered, the music infused with mechanical beats thrummed in sync with my pulse. The bar stretched like a long snake, twisting with vibrant patrons wielding drinks glowing like miniature nebulae. Each table held hushed conversations, exchanged thoughts, and secrets entwined in the thick atmosphere. I fixated on a figure huddled in the corner, their wiry frame shrouded beneath a tattered poncho, fingers dancing over a set of worn keys embedded within a makeshift console. My stomach knotted at the sight. Aiden, the hacker I remembered from the renegade subcultures long before I lost Terk. Aiden, I called out, striding towards him, realizing an overwhelming urge to reclaim familiarity. He lifted his head, his jagged skin tracing stories of resilience and hardship. Recognition flickered like light upon the wave of his gaze. Pen, I thought you'd disappeared along with the ghosts of the old city. Guess I'm back from the dead. I gave a rueful smile. You wouldn't believe the trouble I'm in. He gestured for us to sit as Maris slid across the bench. She was ever the observant type, scanning the scene around her, while I locked eyes with Aiden. I need the vault schematics for the syndicate. I launched directly, not wasting the moment, and I need them now. Hold on, he replied, raising an eyebrow. The last I heard, they were looking to blow your candles out. Yeah, well, shove it. I have bigger fish to fry. Okay, what's the plan? Aiden leaned forward, curiosity piqued. We have to pull this off before the syndicate mobilizes entirely. I need to know where their patrolling cycles are weakest, how many guards are stationed inside the vault, and Aiden pressed expectantly, alight with interest. A way to take back control from them, I finished firmly, my heart pounding anew. We have to make a statement, one worth making. Aiden's enthusiasm flickered with hesitant trepidation. That's a hell of a mission, Pen. We have to be smart about this. You won't have the numbers this time. It'll just be you, Maris, and me. For Terk, I whispered, feeling the echoes of loss and determination building inside me. For everyone we've lost to their tyranny. The syndicate won't give up their power easily, Maris warned, a shadow falling across her features. Then let's show them what it means to lose, I replied, grasping the thin tether between hope and despair. With Aiden agreeing to retrieve the schematics, we discussed our plan amidst the cacophony of chatter and music. The sense of urgency heightened, but beneath the weight of uncertainty, a flicker of rebellion ignited within me. Together, we could face whatever darkness awaited us. Unbeknownst to all of us then, seeds of chaos were already germinating below the surface of Neon Haven. intertwining with the narratives of countless others. Our lives were inextricably linked to the greater web of conflicts that yearned for change, choices and sacrifices blending into a tapestry larger than any individual could comprehend. A gathering storm was approaching. The tendrils of fate began interlacing again. Our personal battles gave way to the embers of a larger conflict yet to unfold. And in this city where shadows breathed, we would rise. Asterisk asterisk to be continued. Asterisk asterisk Aiden worked his magic with the schematics, his fingers gliding over the keys of his console. The faint glow of data projected around us, illuminating Aiden's wild hair and the sharp lines of Maris's determined face. In the thick, smoky shadows of the city machine, a cocoon of purpose enveloped us. But beneath that surface, unease simmered like a dormant volcano. "Got it," Aiden said finally, his eyes gleaming with exhilaration. The display shifted, revealing a holographic map of the Syndicate's vault, a labyrinthine structure nestled in the depths of the city's technological heart. We all leaned closer, absorbing every detail. "The guard rotations are erratic here," he indicated, his finger hovering over a series of red markers representing patrols. "But the weakest spots come at the shift changes. There are 4 main access points," Maris noted, tracing the lines with a fingertip, her eyebrow arching in consideration. "If we can secure one of them, we might just slip in unnoticed." I nodded, feeling a mix of anxiety and adrenaline surge. "And what about the security systems? Any electronic barriers we'll have to navigate?" Aiden grimaced. "Those are the easy part. I've got a backdoor coded that will bypass their alarms, but we can only use it once before it alerts the central system. Then we have to make it count," I replied, steeling my nerves. "We take what we need and get out, fast." Maris leaned back, deep in thought. "This is all for Terk and everyone else who's suffering," she murmured, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. "But even if we pull this off, how do we know it will make any difference?" The question echoed in my mind, vibrating against my resolve. Deep down, I felt the fear coiling tightly around my heart. A fear that our efforts might be in vain. Would this really be a turning point, or just another futile skirmish against the relentless tide of oppression? "We have to believe it will," I responded, my voice firmer than I felt. "Every act against the Syndicate chips away at their hold on this city. We're not just doing this for us, we're fighting for everyone trying to scrape by under their thumb." The glimmer ignited in Maris's eyes. "You're right. This could be the catalyst for something much bigger. If we succeed, we inspire others to stand up against them." "Exactly," I said, sensing a thread of hope weaving through the room. "And as long as we stand together, we have a fighting chance." The countdown began. Time dripped away like the fine mist of the city's rain, burdensome and heavy. Hours melted into minutes, and soon the sun slipped beneath the horizon, embracing the city in a cloak of darkness. As we prepared to venture into the heart of danger, unease curled at the edges of my resolve, whispering reminders of our mortality. "Okay, let's run through it one last time," I said, pulling out the holographic map. Aiden and Maris exchanged glances as anticipation mixed with trepidation. "We approach from the east wing and stick to the shadows. Aiden, you'll initiate the backdoor protocol as soon as we're in. Maris, keep an eye on the guards. Any movement and we have to shift our plan." "Got it," Aiden said. He was already tapping notes into his device, his intensity radiating as the air thickened around us. "Let's kick some ass," Maris responded, her fierce smile a flash of steel in the dark. "With lethal intent," I added, locking eyes with her for a brief moment. We were more than just allies, we were becoming something more. A force forged in desperation and determination. Under the cloak of night, the streets morphed into a vast, intricate web of shadow, concealing our approach as we moved like phantoms through the city. Familiar sights turned foreign with the dark haze, alleys lurking with unknown dangers and worse. The weight of our mission thrummed under my skin like a live wire. We arrived at the vault entrance, a cold metal door affixed with biometric locks and secure panels. My heart raced against my ribs. This was it, the moment where everything balanced precariously on a knife's edge. Aiden knelt by the access panel, fingers flying over the console with precision. "Looks like they are using some outdated security systems," he murmured, a mixture of relief and concern tinging his tone. "Let's just hope they haven't updated their protocols." The hum of the technology vibrated in sync with the urgency of our breaths. The door shivered, releasing a faint hiss as the heavy metal separated with a groan, unveiling an expanse of stark, sterile corridors. My body recoiled at the sight. The sterile fear of familiarity gripped me tightly. "We're in," Aiden whispered, barely looking up as we slipped inside. Moving swiftly through the vault, we navigated a maze of flickering lights and surveillance cameras. Each step amplified the tension spiraling out of control in my chest, taunting me with a foreboding sense of doom. Entrusting ourselves to the skill of the hacker felt like stepping onto a precipice. 3 guards ahead, Maris reported with a low voice, pointing toward the dim visibility of figures in uniform, their silhouettes cast against the sterile lighting. "If we time this right, we can maneuver around them." Aiden nodded, his focus unbroken as he worked to disconnect the cameras one by one, each click raising the stakes. "Okay, wait for my signal," I murmured, lowering my body closer to the ground, infiltrating the instinctual response of a hunter poised to strike. Seconds felt like hours as we synchronized and shifted through the corridor, barely catching sight of the guards on the other side of the corner. When the moment came, I darted forward, heart raced and blood surged loudly in my ears. We moved like shadows, bodies melding into action. The guards barely registered our presence as we slipped through their line of sight, expertly weaving between them. Relief washed over me, yet an insistent pulse of tension remained ingrained in my bones. Watch out, trust no one. The vault lay ahead, pulsating with a life of its own, energized machinery buzzing with anticipation. "Just down this way," Aiden said, urgency thickening in his voice. "I see the main chamber. It should contain the artifact." The air crackled with suspense, each step we took reverberating with an unshakable rhythm of fate. But soon as we approached the grand door to the main chamber, a sharp sound broke through the silence. A metallic clank echoed, slicing through my awareness. "What was that?" Maris hissed. My skin prickled. "I don't know." "Aiden, checking systems," he replied, eyes darting across lines of code projected before him. "The patrols are shifting. They're increasing security. We have to move now. Open that door." I shouted, my heart racing. "Well, I'm trying." "It's secured with a secondary encryption," Aiden said, his face now taut with intensity. "I need time." Panic reverberated through me as the weight of urgency loomed over us, threading strands of despair into my resolve. I did not come this far only to falter. "Stay here." "I'll hold off the guards if they show up," I urged, stepping toward the massive door, feeling the surge of adrenaline heighten my senses. I could hear footsteps echoing through the corridor, their rhythm growing ever closer. "Pen," Maris exclaimed, her voice a desperate plea. Unlike the previous moments of my life, apprehension twisted within me as I turned to face the oncoming threat. Sweat dripped down my brow, but I pressed on, running through potential outcomes, each one leading back to grave danger. "Just give me a moment," Aiden grunted as he battled the encryption, fingers moving faster than I thought possible. I drew my breath, summoning every ounce of courage. "Let's make this count." Flashes of light burst through the hall as the guards appeared, their uniforms taut against the shadows. They wielded weapons, poised and ready, as I felt the panic bubble inside me. "Now," I barked as everything came to a crescendo. "Aiden, get that door open." With that, everything felt like a blur. A surge of instinct took over, an unyielding need to protect those around me, to fight against this relentless force. I charged toward the guards, an improbable hope igniting within my chest. Clash of metal rang in my ears as I closed the distance, dodging the first guard's swing with ease. Adrenaline flooded my veins. My body moved in concert with desperate survival. "Cover me, Maris," I shouted, grappling with the first guard, twisting and ducking beneath their reach. She leaped into the fray, her determination lighting the air like gasoline igniting. Aiden's voice, frantic yet focused, buzzed in my mind. "Pen, I'm almost there." Another guard descended on me, but I barely acknowledged them as I darted aside, pulling my weapon from my side. The blow was visceral, precise. The guard crumpled to the floor. A stagnant breath hung in the air as I heard the unmistakable sound of the vault doors unlocking. "I got it," Aiden yelled, his eyes alight with triumph. "Let's go," with a final wail, shouting panic. I spun to the others and sprinted toward the open chamber, pulling Maris along with me. The massive door swung wide, revealing a vault shimmering with treasures. Tech from a forgotten world, pulsating remnants of lives that once fueled the dreams of a city's heart. But I had eyes only for the golden artifact at the center, a core of swirling light, a relic pulsating with an undeniable energy. "That's it," I breathed, racing toward it, heart thrumming in rhythm with the artifact's glow. It glimmered like a beacon of hope amidst the chaos, embodying everything we had come to fight for. But time was a cruel mistress. The guards would regroup, and we needed to escape before we became their prey again. The significance of this moment weighed heavy on me. It wasn't just about what we took, but what this could represent for everyone suffering under oppression. "Grab it, we're not leaving it behind," Maris shouted, just as the echo of footsteps grew louder. With trembling hands, I reached for the artifact, its warmth coursing through my fingers as I felt its pulse resonate with my heartbeat. This was our weapon, our signal of rebellion. The moment hung as thick as tension. "Move," Maris urged, as if sensing time's inexorable creep toward catastrophe. An electric hum enveloped us, pushing me to act faster. I felt the weight of anticipation dragging on my limbs as we pivoted, rushing toward the exit and leaving behind the chaos brewing inside the vault. I could feel fear, intensified exuberance emboldening each step when the guards emerged, their glinting eyes locking onto us like predators spotting unsuspecting prey. I gripped the artifact tightly, its power electrifying my resolve. And then we were off, a blur of movement as we raced against the impending darkness. The guards shouted behind us, orders reverberating against the fragile veneer of hope we clutched. "There's no stopping us," I managed between breaths, adrenaline fueling my legs, determination guiding my strides. I forged ahead with Maris beside me. "Left," Aiden called out, the hallways twisting like a serpent around us. We turned, racing through shadow-laden corridors that hid threats laced with desperation. The edge of panic tore at my thoughts, but just when it seemed we were cornered, Maris spotted a service exit. There, we rounded the corner and barreled through the emergency door, tumbling into a narrow alley, the city's night air striking against my skin like a gust of primal energy. "We made it," I wheezed, glancing to see the chaos of Neon Haven stretching out before us, a powerful backdrop for our fight ahead. But as moments ticked by, I realized the guards were in close pursuit. Footsteps echoed, their relentless intensity dancing off the hard surfaces like a death knell. "Run," Aiden hollered as we charged down the alley, fear blending with obsession, our hearts pumping with singularity. A flicker of light caught my eye, a warning sign embedded deep within the metal structures of the city. A new opportunity hidden in the recesses of despair. "We need to get to the old subway tunnels," I urged, remembering the paths worn by desperate souls seeking freedom. "Follow me," Maris shouted as she sprinted ahead, the maze of alleys leading us into the depths of subterfuge, our final escape pushing against the odds. The echoes of our pursuit grew dim as we descended into the underground tunnels, the world above fading with each footfall. Each breath was a strike of defiance against fate. We emerged into the old subway station, a shadow of the grandeur it once held, concealed under layers of neglect and resistance. "Quick, we can find a way out to Sector V from here," Aiden said, his voice resonating through the arching echoes of the tunnels. The walls pulsed with a sense of history. Here, the remnants of dreams dashed after rebellion filled the air like vapor lingering from lost breaths. Here, we could make our stand. I felt a resolve hardening within me, an indomitable belief that even amid chaos, hope could take root. The artifact hummed between us like a heartbeat, soft yet insistent. As we moved deeper into the underground channels, A fragility clung to our fate. The lurking shadows held our secrets and our desires, inextricable from our truths. We were pawns in a larger game, caught in the storm of a battle that was far from over. But together, we would carve our own story, a tale echoing the rise of those who stood together against the force of despair. Each footfall resonated like a declaration, unyielding and proud. Whatever lay ahead, we would face it together, forging a path against the darkness that blanketed Neon Haven. "Get ready," I said, the glimmer of courage shimmering through my veins. "We're just getting started." And in the depths of a city saturated with shadows, hope ignited a spark that would not be easily extinguished. To be continued, the echoes of our footsteps reverberated through the subway tunnel, the remnants of forgotten journeys whispering around us. Dim lights flickered sporadically above, their illumination casting erratic shadows, dancing phantoms of our past as we forged ahead. The air was thick with tension, yet beneath the surface I felt a growing weight of conviction. We could ignite a change in the fabric of this city. "Where to next?" Maris asked, breaking the silence with a note of urgency, her dark eyes scanning our surroundings for threats lurking in the shadows. Aiden consulted a crumpled map, the edges geared and faded, a haunting relic of a time before the Syndicate's grip tightened around Neon Haven. "We should emerge around Sector V, close to the old market," Aiden replied, his fingers tracing the worn lines of the map. "Once we surface, we can find shelter while we strategize." "Are you sure this leads us to safety?" I asked, the weight of our stolen artifact resting heavily in my pocket, a power source pulsating with potential and purpose. The thought of the Syndicate backtracking our escape sent chills racing down my spine. "It's the safest route we have," Aiden assured, meeting my gaze with determination. His resilience was infectious, an anchor in turbulent waters. "We'll be off their radar down here, I promise." Together, we forged deeper into the underbelly of the city, the distant sound of water dripping echoing against the cold concrete. My heart raced not only from the impending danger that beckoned us like a looming storm, but also from the uncertainty of what lay ahead. What awaited us in Sector V? Had we truly set off an incipient revolution, or were we merely pawns dancing on the fringes of fate? The tunnel began to narrow, suffocating in its constraints. I could feel the claustrophobia wrap its fingers around me, but the thought of what we fought for urged me onward. Terk's laughter, a ghost in my memory, nudged me to break free of the chains of doubt. Suddenly, a massive rusted door loomed before us. Aiden approached it cautiously, testing the handle before turning back to us. "This should lead to the station," he said, "but we've got to be quick." I saw movement behind us. Adrenaline surged, propelling us forward. I threw myself against the door, the creak of the metal splitting the air while the weight of the world hung heavy on my shoulders. Aiden shoved it open, revealing the expanse of Sector V bathed in eerie twilight, a realm poised between chaos and hope. As we emerged into the light, I paused, taking in the landscape. A patchwork of graffiti, stained walls, flickering signs, and trading stalls, a breath of defiance against the Syndicate's tyranny. This was the heart of the rebellion, a place where the dust gathered like whispers of forgotten dreams amidst the squalor of survival. The frantic shuffle of people bustling around us snapped me back to reality. "We need a place to regroup," I murmured, urgency lacing my words. "Somewhere we can strategize without ears overhearing." Maris nodded, her gaze scanning the street. "I know a tavern around the corner. The Fallen Star. It's frequented by the movement. They'll help us." The urgency in her tone propelled us into action. We trudged through the fragmented crowd, the energy in the air electric with anticipation. Murmurs of rebellion washed over me like a tide, fanning the flames of that deep-seated desire for retribution against the hidden sufferings of those trapped under oppressive rule. I could see faces of worn resilience and voices laden with the weight of untold stories. Yet just as we rounded the corner, the unnerving clattering of boots echoed in the distance. My heart raced as I glimpsed it, the unmistakable insignia of the Syndicate on the uniforms of some enforcers, darting through the throngs of people. We were being hunted. And now would be a good time to move, Aiden urged, his voice taut with urgency. Maris and I nodded as we quickened our pace, weaving through the crowd, adrenaline surging in our veins. I could feel my pulse echoing in my ears, fueled by the knowledge that failure was not an option. Terek's face danced before me, unyielding in its need for action. The tavern loomed into view, its dimly lit entrance a beacon amidst the shadows. I could see figures inside, shadows swirling about, whispers lighting the sultry air with anticipation. It was a refuge, a sanctuary for those like us willing to defy the chains restraining our spirits. Just a little closer, I urged as we darted toward the wooden door, the muffled sounds of raucous laughter painting the air mingled with our racing hearts. As we crossed the threshold of the fallen star, the atmosphere shifted. The vibrant noise wrapped around us like a warm embrace, while the remnants of fear slipped away for a moment. Yet the looming threat nagged in my ears, urging me to stay alert. "Get a table now," Aiden directed, pointing toward the far corner where shadows mingled with flickering light. I nodded and, still gripping the artifact hidden beneath my jacket, threw myself toward the secluded booth at the back. Maris slipped in beside me, her eyes darting about the room. "We stay low. We don't want to draw attention," I murmured. Aiden joined us moments later, the tension trailing behind him like a shadow. "I don't see the Syndicate enforcers, but they're still close. We need a plan, fast." I nodded firmly, adrenaline still thrumming in my veins. "We have the artifact. It might be our greatest gambit yet, but we need to share everything we know with the others. We must rally the movement to act against the Syndicate while we still can. And what if we fail? What if we do all this, and it leads us right into a trap?" Maris countered. The flicker of uncertainty returned to her eyes. "No, it can't be. We have to believe this can make a difference, ignite something greater," I said, my voice rising with conviction. "We are not alone. There are others who want to rally against the Syndicate, and together we can dismantle their stronghold. Terk would never have stood down, neither will I." For a moment, the weight of my words rested heavily in the air, drawing Maris and Aiden into a solemn contemplation. The air thickened as tension pooled around us, yet it was laced with an electrifying sense of possibility. We were the architects of our own fate now, a collective bound by a common purpose. "It's time we rallied the movement," Aiden finally said, singular determination igniting his gaze. "Let's rally everyone we can. We need to spread the word. This artifact can change everything." Maris squeezed my hand, comfort and strength coursing between us, and I felt bolstered by both of their belief. "Then let's do it," I said, breathing in purpose. "We've come too far to turn back now." Just then, the tavern door swung open abruptly, a gust of wind swirling in, carrying with it an ominous chill that cut across our gathering. A figure stepped inside, an aura of power and danger rippling in their wake. My breath hitched as I recognized it, Kale, the architect of chaos who had drawn us into this battle from the start, their presence demanding the attention of everyone in the room. "Let's hope you've been busy," Kale announced, scanning the tavern filled with murmuring patrons. "I trust you've secured the artifact." Your murmur of confusion rippled through the tavern. I swallowed hard, the weight of my doubts rising once again. "Are you prepared to do what needs to be done?" Kale continued, with an unnerving confidence brimming over. "It's not enough to hold on to power. We need to redirect it towards something greater. Otherwise what?" Someone from the back snapped. "You expect us to throw ourselves at the Syndicate's mercy? Don't sound so surprised." Kale's smirk threatened to curl into something sinister. "Change only comes when we stand together against the brutal oppression clawing at our throats." My heart raced at their words. A rallying cry echoed deep within me. I could feel the room's energy shift, an ember of hope igniting amidst the doubts. Perhaps Kale was the catalyst we needed, their presence both unnerving and exhilarating. Together, I echoed, taking a step forward. "This is what we fight for: the lives we've lost, the future we can reclaim. We can plan the next move, but we need to act now. Will you stand with us?" Kale challenged the crowd, their voice reaching every corner of the tavern, laden with fervor. This city has forgotten what it means to fight. Tonight, we remind them. A cheer erupted from one side of the tavern, swiftly spreading like wildfire. It rippled through the crowd, the energies of resistance intertwining. Our shared struggles forged an unbreakable bond. A flicker of adrenaline surged within me, buoying my spirits as I gazed around the gathering. We were on the cusp of something explosive, a glorious uprising that would shake the syndicate to its core. The world felt alive. Possibilities danced with vibrant clarity, and for the first time since Terk vanished, I wasn't just a pawn anymore. I was a player, a beacon lighting the way amid shadows, leading a charge that could change everything. It was time to ignite the revolution. To be continued, the energy in the fallen star pulsated with an electricity that felt palpable. It coursed through my veins like warmth, weaving into the very fabric of my being. This was it. This was the moment where everything we had sacrificed would redefine our future. Kale stood poised at the center of the room, the attention of every rebel locked onto them as they prepared to lead us into chaos. Tonight, we take back Neon Haven, Kale declared. The words hung heavy in the air, the force behind them igniting a fire within us all. Follow me, I found myself shouting, forcing my voice to rise above the swell of excitement surging through the crowd. We have the artifact, our keys to unhinge the syndicate's grasp. We have the power to strike where it hurts the most. The call to arms struck a chord, and the patrons of the bar roared back, chanting my name, our weapons hammered by our shared despair and a hunger for justice. Kale's presence guided us as they gestured toward the exit, the thrill of rebellion mirrored in their piercing gaze. Those who remember the old city and those who seek a new beginning exist within each of you. The syndicate fears our unity more than anything else. Let's show them our strength. With that, we surged forward, bursting into the streets of Sector V, an ocean of bodies spilling into the night under a stormy sky, emboldened by a fierce spirit. As we pushed into the fray, adrenaline electrified my limbs. Bodies moved in unison, the sight of defiance swirling around me. A vibrant flood of humanity ready to reclaim their freedom. But even as anticipation coursed through us, an undercurrent of dread churned in my stomach. What if this was all a facade? What if our efforts shattered against the syndicate's might? Up ahead, shouted Maris, pointing toward the far reaches of the market where the flickering neon signs pulsed disjointedly, as if struggling for breath beneath the weight of despair. I could make out the outlines of syndicate patrols moving among the crowd, patrolling, their rigor poised to crush our rebellion before it even began. Stay close, I called back, leading the charge toward a nearby market stall. Its weathered sign reading "The Last Stand" hung precariously. We can regroup there. As we ducked behind the stall, shadows cloaked our gathering bodies. The activity around us melded into a chaotic symphony of shouts, metallic clicks, and the dissonance of fear mingling with hope. Kale stepped forward, surveying the alley as Aiden pulled out his device to assess the current patrols. They've got tech on their side. We need to disrupt their communications and push for the central hub before it's too late. The central hub, Maris blurted, eyes wide. You mean the heart of the syndicate's operation? Precisely, Kale affirmed, a smirk curling at the edges of their lips. We can sow confusion, grab their attention, and draw them away from the vulnerable spots. We'll create chaos on our terms. The thought sent chills down my spine. And how exactly do we do that? I have a few tricks up my sleeve, Aiden chimed in, urgency lining his voice. But we'll have to be swift. He brought up a detailed layout of the syndicate's operations superimposed on a floating hologram, its blue beams glowing against the mosaic of chaos outside. If we divert enough energy to overload their communications, we'll create a window for us to move undetected. That's reckless, Maris protested, frowning. We could easily be outnumbered. Not if we act decisively, Kale replied, leaning in closer. This is our turning point. If we pull together, we can reshape our fates. The gravity of their words pushed against my doubts. This was more than just about me. We were warriors for those entombed by the Syndicate's iron grip. Then let's do it, I asserted, the weight of resolve settling into steel within my chest. But what do we need to power this outburst? We need to infiltrate the main communications hub just beyond the last stand, Aiden replied, tapping on his device as if visualizing the map arising in his mind. The moment we override their systems, we'll redirect it to overload, leaving a breach for our forces. Let's make it count, I said, confidence pouring into my voice, fueling the unyielding force racing through our ranks. Maris, you're with me. Aiden, cover our backs. With swift commands, we pulled together, hearts racing in unison as we shifted from our cover, edging toward the chaos unfurling in the market. A fleeting glance at the Syndicate's enforcers reminded me of their numerical superiority. There were too many. How could we do this? Distract them? I shouted, and instinctively, with gall in my heart, raced toward a nearby mismatched vendor's cart, a collection of gadgets spilling over its edges. In one swift motion, I swept my hands through the contents, old metallic trinkets, defunct machinery, and just barked explosives ready to be found. I kicked one of the gadgets into the air, igniting a cloud of sparks and fire that burst forth in a blinding shower. And as chaos erupted, the crowd shifted and screamed, and confusion warped the Syndicate's lines. The moment the enforcers turned their attention, Maris and I dashed toward the main hub, adrenaline pounding beneath my skin. There, the entrance, Maris pointed wildly to the metal door embossed with the Syndicate's symbol. I pulled her behind me, pounding against my heart as the guards yelled frantically, trying to recalibrate their focus. Get down, Aiden shouted from behind us, and as we ducked into the opening, the chamber buzzed with the whirring of electricity. I could feel the weight of time pressing down on us. A matrix of control panels and digitized interfaces blinked before us, a machinery of power so tantalizing yet terrifying. Maris wasted no time as she slid toward the nearest console, her fingers dancing over buttons with precision. I can bypass their firewalls, but I'll need time. Keep an eye on the door, I urged, my heart hammering as I scanned our surroundings. Fear struck like a blade, dangerously aware of the torrent of chaos spinning just beyond those walls. The tension in the air whipped around us like a storm. The guards were regrouping. We've got company, Aiden warned, positioning himself close to the entryway with a defunct weapon retrieved from the vendor's cart. A makeshift shield ripe with uncertainty. Almost there, Maris shouted. A bead of sweat trickled down her forehead as she focused intently on her task. Just a few more seconds. As she worked feverishly, I felt the unmistakable tremor of footsteps growing closer, dread flooding my senses. You have to hurry, we don't have much time. Done. Maris cheered as the screens flickered and transformed, the hazardous glow of their system shifting like lightning in a tempest, rerouting power to overload. Get ready. My pulse raced, anticipation swirling like a storm. We bolted toward the door and peered beyond. The Syndicate enforcers were closing in, their shouts piercing the air with authority. "A pen?" Aiden called, his voice punctuated with desperation. "We need to move now. Let's go. Lead them away." I shouted, adrenaline peaking as I pushed forward and led the way down the corridor into the darkness of uncertainty. We tore through the hallways, pounding footsteps trailing behind us, dread becoming palpable against my senses. I could feel the shattered remnants of doubt creeping back in. We had come so close, but were we really unstoppable? And now, Maris shouted, the walls around us vibrating with energy as the screens throughout the building erupted in cascades of color. A swirling vortex of chaotic electricity bending toward a pointed apex. The tremors bounced off the walls, a frantic symphony thrumming toward its climax. "Get back!" Aiden yelled, pushing Maris and me toward the exit as a blinding light exploded behind us. "Run!" I screamed, propelling us forward, propelled by hope and fear, a heady mixture that fused deep within. We darted through the darkness of the retreating hallway, the energy sparking and crackling wildly behind us, each beat growing more remote as the explosion resonated throughout the hub. The floor trembled beneath our feet, our escape threading through a tapestry of energy and chaos, and then silence. Outside, the streets were ablaze, the Syndicate scrambling amidst the onslaught, as the bright lights flickered throughout the sky, just as we burst onto the street. We fell into the welcoming arms of the crowd, echoing cheers ringing loudly around us, triumphant cries of defiance and hope as the reality of our actions unfurled before us. The syndicate was caught, a web of chaos woven from our desperation. But this was only the beginning. I turned to see Kale, a thunderous pride echoing in their eyes as they met my gaze. This is only the first step, Pen. The revolution is alive. I could barely breathe, the weight of our journey rushing over me in waves of emotion. Yet I stood resolute. We'll keep fighting, and the embers of something magnificent began to ignite within my spirit, a hope born from struggle sweeping through Neon Haven's underbelly. Together, we would rise from these ashes. Together, we would reclaim our lives from the clutches of despair. The fight had only just begun. More battles awaited, some yet unseen, but we would fight for every dream lost and every hope ignited. To be continued as dawn broke over Neon Haven, the skies bled a gradient of violet and gold, an awakening that pulsed with the promise of change. The streets that were once cloaked in fear now buzzed with renewed energy. The aftermath of last night's rebellion had created ripples, a movement teetering on the brink of transformation. I stood with Maris and Aiden on the threshold of the fallen star, the scent of rain, soaked asphalt filled with fervor lingering in the air. It felt like the city was alive, breathing once again. Did we do enough? I whispered, gazing at the wisping currents of energy that intertwined through the streets, adorned with remnants of chaos. A tapestry stitched from resistance and hope. As we emerged on the cusp of this new dawn, uncertainty clutched at my heart, a constant reminder that our battle was just beginning. Maris, arms crossed and brow furrowed, surveyed the crowd, her eyes flickering with both doubt and exhilaration. "This would be a lot easier if we knew how the syndicate would respond," she said, her voice laced with gravity. "They won't take our uprising lightly." Aiden, still buzzing from the adrenaline of last night, chuckled. "They're scrambling. We caught them off guard, but now they'll regroup." He tossed a knife playfully in his hand, a glint of mischief challenging the weight of our uncertainty. Time to stay one step ahead of them. A commotion erupted further down the street, drawing our attention. Waving flags adorned with symbols of rebellion floated above the throng, punctuated by chants casting aside years of silence. We drew closer, feeling the swell of energy pulse through the crowd. "United we stand," a voice cried out from a makeshift platform, silhouetted against the vibrant dawn. "Together we rise against the tyrants. Last night was just the beginning." I held my breath as the crowd surged forward, a wave of defiance rolling through as people exchanged nods, enthusiasm sparking in their eyes. Could this really be a turning point? "Pen," Maris shouted, pulling my attention as she clutched my arm. "We must keep this momentum alive. We need to spread the word, rally others to our cause." "Let's regroup at the sanctuary," I said, and with a shared understanding, we turned on our heels, pushing through the crowd toward our base. The sanctuary where souls yearning for freedom coalesced. The old market, once a vibrant hub of trade now littered with poignant echoes of rebellion, awaited us. The presence of the resistance had anchored itself there, becoming a beacon against the tide of oppression. As we navigated through the remnants of conflict, I could feel urgency unfurling like a banner unfurling in fierce winds. This was the moment to solidify our resolve. The sanctuary stood at the heart of the old market, a dilapidated structure surrounded by fading walls plastered with artistic defiance. Posters depicting bold visions of the future adorned the space. Forgotten voices now wove their stories into a new narrative. Inside, the atmosphere pulsed with fervor. Rebels gathered in tight circles, sharing intel, strategizing, and intertwining dreams of what Neon Haven could become. Eager whispers filled the room, each voice adding to the chorus of our revolution. "Your actions last night ignited more than chaos," Kale declared as we entered, their presence once again demanding attention. "You unleashed hope into the veins of this city." I felt the weight of their gaze, years of struggle embodied within their intricate mask. "Our work is far from over," they continued, but we have sparked something more profound than we anticipated. It's time we capitalize on that energy." Kale motioned for silence, their eyes flicking over the crowd, gauging the pulse of our resolve. The syndicate is predictable when provoked. They'll want to crush this insurgence swiftly. We must identify their centers of control and dismantle them piece by piece. A young woman stepped forward from the back, her hands shaking with bravado. "I may know the syndicate's plans," she said, her voice resonating with urgency. "I used to work for them, transcribing their communications. There's a meeting tonight among the heads. They've started regrouping." "A smart move," I interjected, urgency burgeoning inside me. "What's the venue?" "A hidden sector beneath the old theater. They think it's secure, but I know the walls well. I believe we can gather intel if we act quickly," she replied, her eyes wide with fear and excitement. "That's our next target," Maris exclaimed, her voice cutting through the anticipation. "If we can plant surveillance, we'll know their strategies and vulnerabilities. Let's not wait for them to strike first," Kale said, stepping forward, their expert gaze assessing the mood of the room. "If we strike at the heart, we can destabilize them before it's too late." As a whole of rebels surrounding me buzzed with fervor, I felt an ember of confidence kindle within me, a light rising from the depths of desperation each of us carried. "Aiden, I need you to scout the perimeter for any traps," I ordered, and he nodded, ready for action. "Maris, you're with me," I continued, turning to her. "We'll navigate through their plans and make sure we're prepared. We can't afford to underestimate them." She nodded, the tension tightening in her expression. "If we can disrupt this meeting, we'll take them down a notch, but we have to strategize, know when to strike." As plans unfolded and the cacophony of voices filled the sanctuary, I marveled at the forging bonds each heart represented. The tapestry of dreams, jagged yet beautifully intertwined. There was an electric pulse at my core, a reminder of Terk, of resilience and sacrifice. With the sun beginning to sink, wafty hues of orange and violet resplendent in the sky, we moved forward, weaving through Neon Haven's underbelly, a city now shimmering with new hope. Eyes turned to the future. The unseen bonds of change stirred in our wake. The old theater crouched on the edge of antiquity, a monument of whispered secrets veiled in shadows. I felt the weight of fate hammering against my chest as we approached our target, tightening anxiety dwarfed by the breathtaking vision of possibility. "Ready," Maris whispered as we slipped into the shadows, intimate with the thrum of the city settling into the night. "Always," I replied, realizing we were not just fighting for ourselves anymore, but for the hope radiating through every rebel's heart in the room back in the sanctuary. As we ghosted closer to the theater's entrance, I steeled myself knowing the stakes were high, yet our bond was stronger. Bound by the hearts that dared defy tyranny, we pushed forward through the veil of destiny. In the end, we would become architects of change. The revolution was rising, ready to echo through the annals of history. Tonight, we were sowing seeds, and what flourished in their wake could shift the balance of power in Neon Haven. To be continued. The air in the theater was thick with anticipation. A charged atmosphere humming like a live wire as shadows flickered among the ornate decay of grand old architecture. The remnants of elegance clung to the walls, stripped bare by years of neglect. Yet amidst that ruin was an electric undercurrent, a hope bubbling at the seams. Maris and I crouched in a narrow alcove, pressed tightly against the remnants of art, our breaths shallow as we attuned our senses to the muffled sounds of the syndicate's meeting, unfolding just beyond the heavy black curtains. "Do you think they're already here?" Maris whispered, the tension rippling through her voice. "They'll be early. The syndicate likes to calculate every move," I replied, straining to listen more closely, a sense of urgency coiling in my gut. "We need to move, identify their plans quickly." "If someone had to know we'd show up," Maris said, biting her lower lip as she peered through the old gap in the curtains, scanning for movement amidst the flickering shadows. "We've taken enough risks already. We can't let fear dictate our actions, not now," I insisted, feeling the heat of defiance spurring me on. "We're armed with information and purpose. We can't afford to let the syndicate tighten its hold any longer. Yeah, but what if they've doubled their security? She countered, worry etched in her features. We need to know what we're walking into. The way she searched my eyes told me the battlefield was as much in her mind as it was outside, our inner demons whispering hollow fears about being overwhelming prey. Just trust me, we can do this, I reassured her, gripping her forearm in solidarity, a bond strengthened by our shared struggle. As the uproar in the room escalated, the heavy curtains swayed slightly, revealing a glimpse more syndicate enforcers gathered ahead, their insignias shimmering as though taunting the very openness we fought for. Their voices tangled together, rising in volume, a tangled mass of strategizing and chiding, power soaked in contempt as they discussed their plans. The rebels think they can throw us off, a booming voice thundered across the room, pressing down on me. Dismantling the communications was only a mistake. We will crush their insurrection before it even flourishes. Our assets are stretched thin. How do you propose we divide forces to intercept? Another voice chimed in, laden with a condescending confidence. Pivot all security to key trade routes. The first voice's anger crackled like electricity, every syllable dripped with venom. Concentrate on the old market. That's where they're gathering. We must squash this movement before it spreads. They linger with false hopes of unity. My insides churned. They were relentless and embittered, their ambitions steeped in malice. We have to get that information, I murmured, the weight of my duty plagued by urgency. As I peered through the heavy drapes, I caught sight of a large figure. Syndicate Commander Zareth towered over the others, an embodiment of intimidation and power, framed by a pale, flickering light that danced ominously across the room. We will meet their rebellion head on, Zareth declared, voice as sharp and unyielding as a blade. Gather intelligence on the leading fighters among them. Each target must fall, or we fight a never-ending war. They need to make an example of someone, I murmured, anxiety swelling in my chest like a raging storm. We have to warn the others. The moments dragged on, filled with tension and dread as fleeting glances exchanged among the syndicate members hinted at a deeper betrayal looming on the horizon. What are you thinking? Maris asked, tugging on my sleeve. We infiltrate. We plant Aiden's surveillance devices, I replied, my voice hushed but quaking with resolve. Once we grasp their plans, we can strategize against them and warn the others. But if we stumble upon more syndicate enforcers, then we fight. I finished, the words hanging heavily like a promise. We've come too far to cower. I'm in, she said decisively, fire igniting in her gaze. Let's do this. With a deep breath baptizing me in courage, I nodded. We crept closer, inching between shadows and avoiding the clutches of the dim light. Our plan unfolded like molten metal pouring from a mold, the urgency to act curdling with determination. We made our way deeper into the sanctuary of conspiracy, where the syndicate heads echoed danger in whispers. Maris poised herself near a panel in the wall, recognizing the access point to an old system, broken yet salvageable. If I can crack this, I may be able to tap into their communications without them knowing, she whispered as she fumbled with the broken machinery. Do it, I've got your back, I assured, having assumed a watchful position at the doorway. Just moments later, a flicker of lights pulling from the depths erupted alongside the despairing hum of machinery. The flickering console illuminated her face, a mixture of determination and trepidation. All right, I'm in, she exclaimed, fingers flying over the screen as encrypted codes cascaded across the interface. Behind me, the murmurs of the syndicate heads grew louder, rife with conspiratorial airs, a clever arrangement of minds and malice crafting not just a fate for us rebels, but a looming tempest threatening to quash everything we had worked for. Time felt like fog, heavy and thick, yet slipping away from me, and with it, our chances for victory, almost done. Just stay vigilant. Maris's voice remained steady yet laced with urgency. Assured, I tightened my grip around the makeshift weapon. I'd acquired a crude yet trusted piece to protect our escape. I watched the doorway through which we had entered, heart racing as I caught a flicker of movement. Zareth stood, towering with a palpable aura, glancing back toward our alcove. The tangle of conversations fell silent, and I knew instinctively that the room had shifted. "Something is stirring," Zareth's voice cut through the air. The finality of suspicion intensified in his tone. Dread coursed down my spine as I instinctively pressed myself closer to the wall. "Are you almost in?" A crash exploded behind us, reverberating with chaos. The Syndicate enforcers lurked closer. "I'm almost there," Maris insisted, her efforts ceaseless as she navigated the fluctuations of the old technology. And now, Zareth commanded, turning abruptly toward the entrance as a wave of enforcers shifted forward. "Find them." In that moment, adrenaline surged anew within me. "We need to retreat." My voice rang out, cutting through the impending chaos. "I've got it. Sending now." Maris's fingers danced on the console, eyes wide with fierce determination. The corner of her mouth twisting into an exhilarated smile, invigorated with purpose. "I'm streaming the meeting's intel directly to the sanctuary. They'll know everything." "Maris," I urged as the door burst open, 2 Syndicate enforcers storming inside. My heart raced as dread raced, instinct kicking in. "We have to move. Now. Just a little longer," she shouted back, sweat coating her brow, the tension coating her features as she struggled against the aged tech. The enforcers eyed us, technology and fury glinting in their gaze. "Get down," I shouted, shoving Maris concealed behind the console as I swung my weapon upwards, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The blast cut through the air, finding its mark as one enforcer staggered back, crumpling against the wall. I barely felt the weight of fear as I redirected my aim toward the second officer, the noise blossoming in lethality through the air. "Let's get out of here," I yelled, grabbing Maris's arm as she pulled away, the crumbling console sputtering life into the air. "Go, the data is secured." She darted into the shadows just as chaos erupted behind us. We raced toward the exit, breathless urgency propelling us through the twisting corridors as the building shook with echoes of pursuit, our hearts racing violently in our chests. As we navigated through the chaos, the sound of war drums echoed around us, the Syndicate's searchlights lighting the theater's passages like the hungry eyes of a predator. "This way," I called out, veering left as I led our escape into the holes beyond. Every step pulsed with the danger of discovery, with my mind racing to find a way to counter their onslaught. "Now what?" Maris gasped, her voice strained. "An exit is just beyond here. We'll reach it," I urged, rushing down the dimly lit corridor. "Stay close." We rounded a corner, a door at the end glimmering like a beacon against our fading will. And there, the faint glow shimmered against the shadows, heralding our exit. But an ominous feeling washed over me, and instincts flared as I felt the air churn, the presence of the enforcers advancing closely behind us. With renewed vigor, we propelled ourselves forward together, racing toward freedom. The very fabric of fate coiling around our every move, and as I reached for the handle, a cacophony erupted from behind. Dark silhouettes flooding the corridor with harsh cries. Dread mixed with determination spurting from within, and in that pivotal moment, I swung the door open, shoving Maris through first as I turned to face the encroaching threat. "Go, go," I cried, adrenaline radiating through my body. Maris darted through the door as I unloaded the final shots of my weapon blindly, throwing them toward the oncoming enforcers, a desperate resistance against the whirlpool of chaos spiraling around us. In the split second I turned, I felt an impact shaking me to my core. I stumbled, barely steadying myself as shouts erupted behind me while the darkness enveloped. I sprinted through the door, limbs racing beneath the weight of hopeless dread as it creaked ominously just behind. It swung shut with a bone-rattling thud. The encompassing silence punctured my thoughts as I stood breathless on the other side, gazing at the nightlife of the old market, where chaos intertwined with hope blooming anew. Maris pivoted toward me, her eyes wide as we caught our breath, and suddenly there they were, faces shining with passion and rebellion, the ones we fought for now standing behind us, igniting that ember of hope. "They are coming," I shouted, urgency spiraling beneath my skin. "Where's Aiden?" He's still out there," Maris said, fear splintering her voice. "We have to regroup." The crowd surged around us, voices ricocheting with the fervor of newfound unity. Each heart thrumming with resilience inherited through brave souls cascading through the night. "They sound the warning, gather what we need," someone yelled, their voice a clarion call among the rising storm. As tension surged, the synthesizer echoes of laughter merged with cries of defiance and echoing spirits refusing to succumb to despair. Together, we summoned the power of collective desire, a tempest infused with righteousness. And as we stood amongst fellow rebels, a shaft of hope sparked within my spirit. "Tonight is the turning of the tide," I shouted, our rebellion locked together as one. A conscious realization cascading through our hearts. We will not back down, we'll take the fight to them. We've been caged too long by their tyranny. The crowd rumbled with applause, a crescendo of fervor soaring into the air, drowning out the encroaching darkness. Together, we crafted waves of freedom that shook the shadows, and with each passing breath, we understood our purpose. It pulsed through us like a heartbeat synchronized among the disenchanted. It was just the beginning. The syndicate may have orchestrated terror, but we had ignited something far too powerful within the hearts of the defiant. With our voices, we would shatter their high walls. As the night filled with exhilaration, we prepared for the next chapter. A battle not marked by fear, but by the taste of freedom, laced with the echoes of laughter now buoying our dreams. Tomorrow would bring forth a revolution brimming with possibility, and we would cast aside our chains, shattered yet whole rebels with a cause marching toward destinies undiscovered, ready to transform the fabric of Neon Haven forever. To be continued as the celebratory fervor spread throughout the old market. The air thickened with anticipation and determination. Our rebellion swelled like an uncaged storm, the cries for freedom resonating among weathered steel and crumbling bricks, carrying the weight of every soul yearning for change. It was time to turn our hopes into action. "Tonight we take the fight to the syndicate," I shouted, the electric pulse in my veins electrifying the crowd, the rhythm of revolution resonating among us. "We've tasted their tyranny for too long. Today, we stand united against them." Enthusiastic chants surged like waves as the people rallied behind my words. "It's our moment, for Terk, for everyone we've lost." The hungry cries forged a cohesive energy, an igniting fire in our hearts as we stood defiantly amid the marketplace that had witnessed our struggles. As the night unfurled its shadows, I felt the presence of Aiden weaving through the throngs, a fiery spirit emanating from him. "Did you secure the intel?" I asked in a breathless rush as he appeared before us, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I did," he said, drawing closer, determination etched across his features. "The syndicate's leaders are scrambling. Their confidence is shaken. We can hit them with their back against the wall. Then let's capitalize on that weakness. We exploit the chaos we've created and strike at their heart." Now, I rallied the crowd once more, igniting renewed vigor among them. Their arrogance in power has made them blind. We know their secrets, and it's time to shed light upon their dark deeds. The chants grew louder, echoing against the night sky as the resolve of the crowd swelled into an unstoppable tide. The Festival of Unity, an ironic name for the display of chaos we aim to create. Maris stepped forward, metallic light illuminating her features. "Where do we strike?" she commanded, her fierce determination reflected in her eyes. We set our sights on their command center. Aiden pointed toward the horizon where the syndicate towers jutted against the skyline, each glimmering window like a watchful eye peering down at us in disdain. "They'll be vulnerable, disorganized, unsure of how we've managed to rally so many against them. We'll disrupt their signals, sever their communications, not just their hold on us, but on the city," I added. "We'll spread our message of hope like wildfire." I stepped onto a makeshift platform, elevating myself among the sea of fervent faces, the collective energy surging in synchronization. "We'll challenge the syndicate head on, gather everyone we can. We march for justice. The time for hesitation is over." Cheers erupted, echoing beneath the sprawling skyline as neighborhood leaders emerged from the crowd, empowered by the promise of revolution. The streets were ablaze with hope. We were prepared to carve our destiny. As we moved into action, coordinating with various factions and the rebels, it felt as if we were transforming into a single living entity, a force galvanized against oppression. Within moments, a plan materialized, a rebellion marching through Neon Haven, fueled by shared aspirations and a potent instinct for freedom. The undercurrent of danger buzzed like static electricity as we readied ourselves, the line drawn clear between oppressor and liberator. Victory awaited us on the cusp of uncertainty. "Everyone ready?" I asked, adrenaline pooling within me. "We move at the first light." We face the syndicate not as individuals, but as one. And remember, our cause gives us strength. As dawn began to paint the horizon in hues of crimson and gold, an air of anticipation wrapped around us, invigorating each breath we took. The moment unfurled before us, the past intertwining with the future as we readied ourselves for the inevitable clash. The syndicate would meet our strength with their own, bold in their resolve, desperate to maintain control. "Well, let's take back our home," I shouted, my heart resonating in symphony with the fervor of every single person standing side by side with me. With that declaration, we surged forth, a unified wave, crashing against the stone edifice that the syndicate stood behind, their stronghold of oppression. The first clash across the city. The syndicate was oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond their walls. We entered their domain, a multitude pushing through diverse streets, our hearts pounding with conviction and peril. "Stay close," I warned, leading our daring congregation toward the command center, its grandeur reduced to insignificance in the face of our unity. The anticipation heightened, and as we approached the colossal doors, the shadows of the syndicate loomed before us. There, Aiden gestured toward a narrow access route leading to an entrance away from the sweeping glances of a guard patrol. "We slip in unnoticed, and we can take them by surprise." A single beat thumped within me. I felt an exhilarating rush of adrenaline and purpose. "Well, let's move." We descended into the shadows. The halls within the syndicate compound felt sterile and cold, the frigid air clinging to our skin as we navigated the labyrinthine pathways embodying power and deceit. Resistance pulsed beneath the surface, weaving its way through every heart in our midst. "Their mainframe room should be just up ahead," Aiden murmured as we approached an imposing door that split the darkness. "Once we breach," Maris said, her voice a blend of determination and anticipation, "we'll disrupt their communication network." I took a steadying breath and nodded firmly. "Let's go." We propelled ourselves into the room, weapons at the ready. The walls were lined with holographic displays, glowing with data and schematics information that betrayed the syndicate's machinations. Security cameras whirred overhead, yet we moved with purpose, fear dissipated in favor of hope. Just then, alarms split the air, an ear-piercing alert reverberating through the corridors. "They know," I shouted, my heart racing as I positioned myself by the door. "Aiden, can you access the central console? We need to cut their comms." "I am on it," Aiden replied, fingers tapping furiously against the console as Maris and I stood vigilant, prepared for the syndicate guards to come rushing through the hallway. Come on. Panic swirled, but our resolve held steady. My grip tightened around my weapon as footsteps thundered against the concrete, the tension ramping to an unbearable crescendo. "How much longer?" I pressed. "Almost got it," Aiden exclaimed, and with that, the screens erupted with a rush of cascading colors as the syndicate's control systems fell under scrutiny. Disrupting communications now, he worked with feverish intensity. A security feed flickered to life, revealing guards scrambling across the compound as they pulled together in a frenzied response. "I can redirect their channels. We can create chaos within their ranks. Do it," I shouted, and with that, the air thrummed, a deep intensity cascading through the room as Aiden manipulated the display. I directed a steady gaze toward the door, steeling myself against the impending clash. The seconds ricocheted, my pulse thrumming in sync with the frantic movements around us. A wave of bodies surged and the door burst open. Syndicate enforcers charging in, weapons drawn and eyes ablaze with fury. "Fall back," I yelled, reflexes kicking in as I struck out, the energy coursing through me. The first guard lunged, the metallic scrape of boots reverberating as Maris and I pushed back against them. The clash of weapons created chaos, reverberating off metallic surfaces like the very heartbeat of rebellion. My weapon met force. The impact resounded against my bones as I remained undeterred. Aiden shouted from behind us, "I'm almost through." They're scrambling. Energy surged around us, electrifying our determination, fueled by the knowledge of everything at stake. Each motion, each breath synchronized with a single purpose, defiance. Push them back. We can't lose. I yelled, adrenaline coursing through me as the guards pressed against us. Yet the warmth of unity surrounded us. We are more than just rebels. We are the architects of our destiny. As the guards stumbled farther back into the fray, the tide of rebellion surged forth. A wave of resistance crashing into the Syndicate's hold. ***, the unforeseen sacrifice ***, with every movement. Instincts sharpened as the chaos heightened. Raucous cries filled the void, calling down the storm upon the Syndicate. However, fate is fickle. I fought hard, redirecting my focus toward the cluster of guards before me, pushing them back with the strength of resolve. But in that increasing chaos ensued a glimpse of calamity. A flash of movement at the fringes of my vision. Aiden shouted, and my heart sank. "Watch out!" I turned, and in that split second, peril struck. A guard infiltrated the space, lunging toward Aiden, weapon raised. Time froze, breath caught in my throat. "Aiden," I yelled, rushing forward, muscle memory flaring as dread surged within me. The blaring alarms melded into an ominous crescendo, the weight of our efforts hanging in balance, desperation clawing at my resolve. The moment slowed in torturous agony. Instinct guided me. I hurled myself forward, projecting the weight of purpose and sorrow as the world expanded and narrowed. I couldn't let another life fall like Terk. The force of the encounter was violent and jarring. I felt the impact thrum within me, artfully avoiding the decisive collision in favor of embracing action. We tumbled to the floor, ground rough against my palms as I reached fiercely, grabbing for the guard's weapon. The chaos unfurled as I collided, twisting the energy around my instincts. Aiden dodged back and met my gaze, and though I couldn't read the emotions swirling within his eyes, gratitude surged between us like an electric current. "Get up," Maris urged amid the chaos, and in that moment, duty pressed down heavily. I leaped to my feet, adrenaline surging as I turned to gauge our surroundings. "Cover, Aiden, we're breaking their link." With incandescent fury, I hurled myself back toward the enforcers, casting chaos like a shroud. Amidst the fray, just as Aiden completed the final adjustments on the console, the world erupted. The screens blared, their energy forging an unyielding path. "And now," he shouted, and just as the words left his lips, the screens released a deluge of data, casting intricate webs of knowledge into the currents. The Syndicate's secrets began unraveling, vulnerabilities exposed before us. I felt a twinge of satisfaction. This would fuel our rebellion in ways they couldn't imagine. Yet before I could fathom our victory, the air shifted palpably, a sense of impending doom trailing like smoke. "We can't stay," Maris shouted over the din, urgency dripping from her every word. "We need to leave now. The alarms are going off." "Almost through," Aiden cried. "I need just a little more time." I felt the heat of urgency seeping into my bones, and as I turned to protect our flank, I saw the glimmer of despair edging closer. "Get behind me," I yelled as the guards surged forward, the leading enforcer lunging toward us with renewed force. The scene erupted into chaos, my every instinct honing in as I faced down the approaching threat. "I'm not losing anyone else," I declared, resolute. With speed pulsating through my veins, I squared my body, planting my feet firmly, and then I would not allow sacrifice to become the currency of our fight. Pain lashed through me as the enforcer's weapon glinted dangerously in the light. My aim soared true. I struck with a surge of sheer determination, a force born of grief and love. And in that moment, everything distilled down to this bitter fragment of rebellion. I watched as the world ignited. An explosion of noise erupted around me, the saturated pulse reverberated deeply, drowning out the cries about the theater. Yet my focus remained relentless. I was a force entwined with the fervor of our rebellion, a single heartbeat adding to the rhythm of our uprising. With a brutal strike, the energy surged through me, colliding against the weight of fate, a chain reaction that unraveled everything. Pain wrestled within me as my world darkened briefly. Chaos exploded around us, tinged by echoes of desperate souls. My world still spun as Aiden shouted out, his voice laced with urgency and determination. "It's done. The barriers are down." My heart swelled. This was our moment. "Now we take back our home," I roared as we surged together, united by a singular purpose, as if the very fabric of our aspirations had stitched itself into a tapestry of hope. We burst forth into the chaos, the needs of the city pressing against our chest, our purpose carving its way against despair. Hand in hand, we were rewriting the limbs of destiny. The Syndicate would learn quickly. ***, the final atonement, ***, resistance surged with each movement we made as the screens flickered to life back in the command center. An orchestra playing our requiem against the fabric of oppression. We reached the heart of the Syndicate stronghold, the surge of momentum pushing us to claim what was rightfully ours. But Morgan Zareth stood in our way, an indomitable presence clad in darkness, fear woven intricately within every heartbeat. "You think you've won," Zareth sneered, a malevolent glint dancing in their eyes. "You are nothing but distractions in a game of power and fate." My pulse quickened, the anger burrowing deeply in response. "This is just the beginning," I shot back, drawing strength from the collective rallying cry echoing behind me. "When we stand united, we are an unstoppable force." "Pathetic," Zareth hissed, raising their hand, dark energy swirling around like an impatient tempest. Chaos boiled within me as I prepared to face them head on, but the echoes of my defiance bound me in strength like woven steel. I had not come this far only to retreat, not for myself, not for Terk, and not for those who would rise against oppression. The world clashed around us with the fury of rebellion as I summoned every ounce of courage and resolve, drawing upon the strength of my newfound family. "This ends tonight," I screamed, charging forward as my heart raced against the depth of fate's uncertainty. Zareth unleashed a wave of energy, yet I could feel the tide turning. Aiden and Maris charged forward, flanking me, shadows merging as we became something greater. A surge of collective power erupted, channeling against Zareth's malevolence. With explosive force, we collided. The air crackled with the energy forged from years of pain, woven with the dreams of those who had fought before us. This was not just my fight, this was everyone's, and as we pushed against the tide, the shadows of my past galvanized me, relegating Zareth to the echoing abyss. "This city will remember the day we broke free from your chains." I roared with defiance as hope surged through my voice like a battle cry. Just as our strikes collided, electricity coursed through our veins, amplifying the unity we'd built amidst the chaos. I felt Terk's presence hovering close, empowering me. Together, we were more than just rebels. We were the voices of our past singing together as one. The thrum of energy filled the room as we drew from the lifeblood of the city, our singular intent coalescing around us. The bastion of the Syndicate threatened to crumble beneath its own weight as hope surged relentlessly. "This ends now," I declared, unleashing the powerful wave of light igniting around us, an inferno of defiance breaking the chains of oppression. Light surged as darkness struggled to hold on. Zareth faltered. The malignance behind their eyes shifted as our combined force surged forth, pushing against the pulse of power that coursed through us. It was over. With one violent strike, we released the gathered energy, an undying flame of rebellion exploding outward, illuminating the darkened chamber, and heralding the dawn of a new beginning. The darkness shattered like glass, bringing forth the indomitable spirit of our unity. A massive surge echoed through the command center, the Syndicate's fortress trembling beneath the weight of our collective purpose. I could feel the walls of oppression quaking, finally relinquishing their hold over our lives. As the darkness began to dissipate, Zareth's malevolence shrieked against the rushing tide, lost to the enormity of what we embodied. A relentless uprising that resonated far beyond vengeance. Liberation would foster the dawn, and the possibility of a brighter tomorrow spread like ripples through our ranks. As the dust settled, I gazed around the sprawling expanse of our rebellion. The fire of hope ignited unyieldingly in my heart. Together, we had broken the chains of despair. My gaze met Maris, her lithe body suffused with courage as she smiled, pulling Aiden close, his eyes ablaze with determination. "This is our city now," I shouted, my voice ringing true with conviction. "From the ashes of tyranny, we will rise as the architects of a new future." A newfound strength surged through the crowd, their cheers reverberating like echoes of light cascading through Neon Haven. Hope swirled within the air like a chorus singing the potential of change. "There will be trials ahead," I continued, my tone rising amid the chaotic symphony, "but we will walk together, hand in hand, turning the tides of fate. No more suffering, together we thrive." The night broke into dawn, a transformation as vibrant as the tones that danced across the sky. United in purpose, we would become the change we sought. A kindling of light rose against the cold shadows, a beacon for all who had suffered in silence. This was only the beginning, and as we raised our arms toward the horizon, the promise of a new dawn pulsing beneath our fingertips, a legacy blossomed. We were no longer prisoners of fate. We were free. And as Neon Haven surged back to life, hope glimmered in the face of adversity. A whirlwind transformed into renewal. Our rebellion would echo through history, each beat an unwavering message. We are the architects of our fate, to infinity, to be continued.